looking for this?
You know where I go if I can go anywhere. Wherever it is I'm running from.
Do you think that what makes a Loki is the fact that we're destined to lose?
What? He's back?
There's nowhere left to go.
Did he control it? Alright, chill.
No, they aren't.
Oh?
Everything's falling apart. The branches are dying.
So what does that mean?
I don't know. I don't know what's happening, but there must be something we can do.
He's like, wait a minute.
What?
What?
I did it.
Did what?
I controlled it.
Ooh.
Learn to control your time slipping.
A.D. Doug?
Yes. It's not about where, when, or why. It's about who.
Cook. That comes from the heart. Alright, here we go, boys. You think this is where it
I
ends?
can rewrite the story.
It's gonna be a cliffhanger. Dude, that's sick. That's a sick, that's a cold line. Oh no! Welcome back to BoomShot. I'm Kel. This is Colby, and we just finished watching season.
Did you just time slip it?
I think I just time slipped. We just finished watching episode 5 of season 2 of Loki. So anyway, we're going to talk about it starting now. All right, so aside from the crazy intro, spoiler warnings. If you haven't seen the episode yet, we had somebody join the stream that said he was 2 episodes behind. Like, what are you doing, bro? Like, but
yeah, it was our friend Sully.
Yeah, it's our friend Sully. So yeah, we can say these things, but. Yeah, so if you haven't seen the episodes yet, go watch them, come back, watch the stream if you haven't seen that, where we just talk about pretty much almost everything. So, yeah. We had fun. So anyway, let's go ahead and jump out to the biggest thoughts that we gathered from the stream. So, yeah, let's start off.
So we actually kind of predicted a couple things.
Yeah.
In the stream directly, I mean, minutes after episode 4,
yeah.
You know, we came up with the theory that everybody's going to go back to their original timelines, like when it exploded. And that's kind of what happened, except for Loki, which we talked about in our trailer reaction.
Yeah.
We kind of came up with that idea. So that's really what happened. And then also we talked about Groundhog Day in that trailer reaction, I think it was. And that's where they hinted at it in this episode, but I feel like that's how they're going to succeed in the next episode. So
yeah. So then, you know, when the temporal loom exploded, we were kind of like, what's going to happen to everybody? And we saw it immediately. Like, first thing out of the episode, Loki's left in the TVA, whereas everybody else is gone. Like, everybody else is gone. So we see him actually time slipping again. He time slips like 60 seconds ahead.
That part was trippy.
Where he finds himself picking up a book, looking at like a TVA handbook, and then he goes back and it was so weird. But
yeah, because then he fulfills that part. He picks up the book, the one that we're following, anyways.
Yeah, and so he's immune to being sent back to a timeline. I guess like Loki's just immune to that, and
that's what we were talking about in our trailer reaction. Like he's the outlier.
Yeah, he is the outlier, and it's almost like his time slipping is almost like a disease that comes back after a certain event happens or something like that.
Yeah, like when
it gets triggered almost.
Yeah, and it like. Initially, I thought it was going to be like when he needs him most, like because if he didn't time slip, he would have spaghettified, I guess.
Yeah.
So like it comes back out of necessity, but we learn later it's he can control it now because of who. So that was a cool moment.
Yeah, exactly. So then there's the Groundhog Day theory, which was. There's the movie Groundhog Day, but for me,
we just call our theories like the Nolan theory.
Yeah, the Nolan theory, the ground. Yeah, no, we're just cooking over here, you know, stealing names and stuff like that. But I get my Groundhog Day theory from Phineas and Ferb, and there's the last episode of Phineas and Ferb for right now until they release a new season. But the last episode of Phineas and Ferb, basically what happens is Candace and Doofenshmirtz capture themselves in a time bubble. And everybody else, the day keeps on repeating, but it gets shorter and shorter and shorter until eventually they run out of time and they have to like throw a spoon at a button and it ends the loop. Basically, what I'm saying is this. All right, I feel like that's kind of what's going to happen. That's what happened this episode. We see it actually that all of the branches begin to fade away, and that's what Sylvie was saying whenever you pointed that out. Whenever she said there's nowhere left to go, like all of the branches are beginning to fade away. And that's kind of like what happened. It started out with a little thing, like where little things started to disappear.
Like her McDonald's bag.
Yeah, like her McDonald's bag or the coffee cup when he was pouring, or like it just little things like that. But then or even the Tim Pad. But then it all started to disappear gradually. So, I think we're gonna see a lot of Groundhog Day-esque elements in the next episode, where now we can control his time slipping. So I think we may see a lot of brutal deaths in this coming episode.
Yeah, and you pointed out it looks like at the very end of this episode, the split second we see before it ends, that it looks like he's like at the staircase as Victor's about to walk out.
Yeah.
So I think it will open with him being like, "Stop! You're about to get Mr. Fantastic." So,
yeah, you're about to get spaghettified.
Yeah, so I feel like they might just trial and error, and Loki's like, "Hey, I can just go back," and they do trial and error, and a bunch of people just like. They try different things, so yeah, they could be just a bunch of brutal deaths.
Yeah, and so he keeps on having to go back in time and figure out the way, like we actually see in the episode of Phineas the Ferb, that Doofenshmirtz, because he's able to like relive the same day over and over again, he sets up like 27 traps for Perry the Platypus. So by the 27th trap, Perry won't be able to get out of it. So like I think we'll finally figure out like he's going to keep on going back in time, and it's going to be like, okay, so this worked here and this worked here. So maybe if we put these two things in succession, this will work. We need this person. We need this suit. We need this stone. We need this something. Like we're gonna see a lot of that. I feel like we'll see a lot of that.
And I feel like it could be something they foreshadowed in a previous episode or even season 1. Mm-hmm. That comes into play, and then it's like, oh, that was the key moment.
Yeah.
It could be one of the stones, like Jared said on stream. Now that they can possibly be used because it was lifted.
Yeah, exactly. Because and now like Loki and Sylvie can use their magic, which is another big thing. Like possibly they could create some kind of like spell or something that could protect them from being overtaken by the time radiation.
Yeah. And we do, I think, in that mid-season trailer, we saw Renslayer, right, in the void.
Yeah.
So I mean that's gonna fit in somewhere. So, and I feel like Miss Minutes might come back. We didn't really talk about that much.
Yeah.
Because we did see her
briefly at the beginning.
Yeah.
And it was, I actually feel like we should talk about that, because that we've talked about what we think is going to happen next episode, and things that we got right and stuff like that. So I think we should really talk about the TVA, the state of the TVA right now, because it was really weird. Like, it got spaghettified. But at the same time, it was like fail-safe contingency plan is in effect.
Yeah,
and it was
that was a weird. And
then
they
at the
focused
very
on
end,
it.
and they focused on it and said, "Thank you for your service." So, what does that mean?
Yeah, like what is the contingency plan? Like, surely He Who Remains would have implemented something. Like he knows what would have happened if the loom failed, and that's what happened.
Yeah.
So that's probably what the contingency plan was, and maybe we see, like. It like ejects Miss Minute somewhere into the past, like so she can evade being spaghettified because she wouldn't have been able to like move herself because she was being rebooted. So I don't know. Yeah,
that's the weird part right now is the nature of those things, but it leaves you thinking like is King been in charge the whole time?
Yeah,
like because I feel like we've been so disconnected from He Who Remains, like the original King. Ever since he died, but like it sounds like to me like this is all part of his plan.
Yeah, and what if it was all part of his plan and he has to go back to the finale of season 1? Mm-hmm. I think Eric Voss threw that theory out there that he goes back, and I think it was Eric Voss that said maybe he's gonna have to like kill Sylvie, so that way she doesn't.
That makes so much sense, though.
So that way she doesn't kill He Who Remains.
Maybe then the Groundhog Day theory is debunked, but think about it like this. If he can control his time slipping, he has to go back to the moment it all went wrong. And the moment it all went wrong is when, like, he keeps on trying every single moment. He's like, okay, well, he goes back to, like, maybe season 2, episode 1. And he's like, okay, maybe if I can assemble the team faster, and then figures out that won't work,
and
then he has to
keeps
time
going
slip back, and he's like, okay, maybe this will work, and then he keeps on going back, maybe this will work, and then eventually he and Mobius, after talking to him, being like, where did it all go wrong? Well, it all went wrong whenever He Who Remains died.
And then he comes to the realization that he might have to like stop Sylvie.
Yeah,
and I would literally cry.
But see, that's the tension that we would need at that point, because that does build the stakes a lot at this juncture. So that's a really interesting point by our boy EA Voss. So
I guess something else that we talked about on stream real quick is the fact that Loki gave OB the book OB wrote, also maybe Victor Timely wrote. Mm-hmm. So Arthur pointed out on stream, it's like a paradox.
Yeah.
And also the paradox of him telling Mobius what Mobius tells him about a jet ski. About it being
a perfect craft to form and function or something like that.
Yeah. He tells that to Mobius. So is that where Mobius got that line from?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's stuff like that I think is really cool, that if things get resolved, we could see them like play into that somehow. And I want to see where the book came from. That's a big mystery to me still.
I don't know. I feel like that may have been like a Merrick type thing from Ahsoka, where we put way too much stock in it, and it wasn't like as big as a deal as the writers intended for it to be, maybe. Yeah,
I could see that, but also they spent a pretty good bit of time on it.
Yeah, that is true.
And also, like, when they shake hands, Sylvie gives them a weird look. Mm-hmm. That EA Voss pointed that out, too. So, I think there's something there, but maybe it could be a red herring.
Yeah, it could be. We could see maybe an evil OB or something like that, which would be crazy.
It would be sad, because he's jaded.
I really do feel like this is not going to be a man versus man type thing. I think this is going to be a man versus time. Like how much, or I guess environment. Like, how do I overcome these mistakes that I made? And so,
and dude, and he might have to overcome his worst fear, which is like having to maybe even go as far as kill Sylvie.
Yeah,
and that's like the last thing he would want to do, because it's Sylvie. I mean, he loves Sylvie. So.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be gut wrenching, dude. And the Sylvie at that time would be like, "What are you doing?" Mm-hmm. Because she wouldn't know that he's already lived all through this. Yeah, she'd have zero context, and so that would pave the way for like. And I hope we don't see this, but it would pave the way for Loki to become a tyrant in a sense, where like he becomes the very thing he swore to destroy. He would accept He Who Remains deal. I mean, that's what it was.
Well, not only that, but like having lived through it all, he's like, this is the only way to make sure what was happening doesn't happen. But in the same breath, he's like, I'm saving so many people, but at the same time, he's going to be killing so many others. And so, like, you're faced with the impossible option of like, what do I do? So we could see that dilemma.
That would be so powerful if they did that, but I just don't know if I could bear it, dude.
and that's kind of like what they've kind of been building to as well, is like the whole concept of choice. Like, does choice actually really exist if you know what's going to happen? And
he might have to face the ultimate choice.
Yeah, and he might have to, and like his choice will affect the choices that everybody else will make. And so, which choice is the one that matters? And did he really have a choice? And all this other stuff. So, like, it would fit in with the broader theme of, and that's been a broad theme since episode 2. Is like, if you know what's going to happen, and you take that into your hands, then you're not giving anybody a choice. And they talked about that a lot this episode too, when Loki takes all of the characters out of their timelines. She's like, you didn't even give them a choice. Yeah. And he's like, no, I am giving them a choice, because I know that their TVA selves liked what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so now I'm giving them a shot to say, do you like this better, or do you like this better? So I feel like that fits in pretty broadly.
Yeah, there's so many complexities to this, man, and I can't wait. I can't wait to watch the finale.
Yeah, it's gonna be incredible. But that's pretty much all for us. I guess one last thing that I want to think of, that I want to talk about is, this will be quick, but basically that scene between Loki and Sylvie where they were talking.
Yeah.
And she's like, why do you want to save the TVA? Like, what is the importance to you? And he's like, because we need to stop, blah blah blah. And then she finally gets him to like boil it down. He's like, because I want to save my friends. And we pointed out on the stream that like the Loki that this is coming from 2011, 2012 Avengers and Thor, where he felt like he didn't belong.
Yeah.
And couldn't really find his place. And to compensate for that, he wanted to take power and be in control.
That was his whole motivation.
Yeah, but now he's found a place where he belongs, and he wants to keep that, which is...
And it's being ripped away from
Yeah,
him.
and it makes a lot of sense, like, now why he cares so much.
And
so,
that was a good point I think you brought up on streaming, and it makes a lot of sense because that's where he literally just came from.
Yeah, exactly. So, and we don't know how many years it's been since then, actually, but, because TVA, no time passes, so... but yeah, I think that's it. The writers have done a very good job in turning all that and churning all that into one big barrel and drawing from it and combining it. And it's doing really good and mixing it up. So I've been really loving this show. I'm sad that it's already the final episode.
I know, dude.
But
it's gonna be great, though.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So let us know what you guys think. Did you like this episode? Have you liked the season as a whole? And thank you guys for watching. See you in the next one.